Good evening and welcome to News Now. My name is Mazim Appeal. Now the top stories this hour. 2 truck drivers have gone down and vehicles set ablaze in Okigwe in Imo State. Also coming up, police in Kaduna arrests 27 suspects in connection with the murder of senior naval officer. Also, about 700 Marines and 2,000 additional National Guard members mobilized as protests break out across the U.S. We begin the news in Imo State, where latest reports say gunmen have killed 2 drivers and burnt their truck at Ogi Junction in Okigwe Local Government Area. Officials of the Imo State chapter of the National Union of Road Transport Workers said the incident occurred at around 10:30 a.m. on Saturday. Dahiru Musa, NURTW's chairman in Okigwe, who confirmed the incident, disclosed that they had informed security officials, including the DPO of Okigwe Local Government Area, about the incident. The truck was reportedly heading to Port Harcourt, where the perpetrators launched the attack. Musa added that he reported the incident to the security forces, including soldiers and police, shortly after it occurred. He gave the names of the drivers as Haruna Muhammad and Adamu Ibrahim. Meanwhile, the Kaduna State Police Command has arrested 27 suspected hoodlums during a coordinated security sweep in the Kawo area, following a gruesome murder of senior naval officer Lieutenant Commodore M. Buba. Buba, who was a student at the Armed Force Command and Staff College in Jaji, was fatally stabbed around 5:20 a.m. on Sunday, June 8th, while trying to fix a flat tire near the Kawo flyover. According to police spokesperson DSP Mansur Hassan, the officer was approached by an unidentified man who demanded his phone. When Buba refused, he was stabbed in the chest with a locally made knife. Bystanders at the scene reportedly overpowered the attacker and killed him on the spot. Buba was rushed to Manao Hospital but was pronounced dead on arrival. Police have clarified that those arrested are not directly linked to Buba's murder but are believed to be part of a wider criminal activity in the area. And in the aftermath of renewed attacks on communities in Okigwe Local Government Area of Benue State, concerns remain over the rising human and economic toll. While families and businesses continue to count their losses, residents are demanding more decisive action to bring the violence to an end. News Central's Sagir Ibrahim reports from Naka, headquarters of Okigwe West in Benue State.
Okigwe West, like many parts of Benue, has been repeatedly attacked by suspected armed herders.
Ordinarily, the journey from Makurdi to Naka in Okigwe West is about 40 kilometers. But due to the growing insecurity along the direct route, we had to take a much longer 80-kilometer detour to access the area, a route many residents now consider the only safe passage to access these areas.
The most recent attack left multiple families in mourning and farmlands across the area abandoned.
Everything now has returned to ground zero. We are already facing a disastrous humanitarian crisis. There are terrorists masquerading as herdsmen. They must be dealt with in lines with the law.
The chairman of the local government, however, insists the situation can only be resolved if the military is given clear directives by the federal government.
If the army are given the rights and the marching orders, 10 military guys alone can finish this problem in Okigwe West in less than 2 days. Even the governor cannot order them. It is only the federal government, so they should help us. Let's push these people out of here.
Others have described the scale of violence as nothing short of genocide.
The killings here are more like genocidal killings. I know it's as a result of climate change, but it has not been well manned. We of recent got to know that the soldiers don't have the mandate to either tame, man, or kill the people who are killing us.
Oyoruba Jacob Liambe, a survivor of the recent attacks, now squats in Naka town. He paints a grim picture of how life is across the local government.
All we could do was to make efforts to escape from the sporadic shootings. Benue State and Okigwe West in particular is an agrarian state, so that has been our major source of income, and that's why Benue State is the food basket of the nation. And at the moment, we don't think the food basket of the nation, if nothing is done in rebuilding us, we still stand. The government is actually trying, but it's not doing enough.
The help is not enough, because the government they are promising us is just a quite promising. We are not seeing their help at the moment.
But the effects extend beyond the violence itself. Back in Makurdi, grain merchants and traders say food supply has dropped while prices continue to rise, a ripple effect of the farmers abandoning their farms due to the insecurity.
You cannot get yam from the villagers again in the hand of the middlemen or middlewomen. And because of that, it's very expensive. Those people that did the storage are the one bringing out for us to buy. Going to the village now to buy things, we cannot afford to go there because your life, you are not sure of coming back.
The collective call is for strong political will and urgent federal government intervention to restore peace and stability.
The people of Okigwe West and Apa local government are still counting their losses and waiting for justice, waiting for safety, and waiting for real government action. In Naka, Okigwe West, in Benue State, for News Central, Ibrahim.
A human rights lawyer and senior advocate of Nigeria, Femi Falana, has cautioned the Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Nyesom Wike, against any plan to seal off embassies and foreign missions in Abuja over unpaid ground rents. Now, Falana stressed that international law and constitutional protection prohibits such actions. His comments come amid reports that the FCT administration under Wike had published a list of 9,000 property owners, including 34 embassies said to be in default of ground rent payments, with the threat of repossessing the affected lands. On May 23rd, the FCTA announced it would begin sealing approximately 5,000 properties over unpaid ground rents spanning between 10 and 43 years. Joining us now from Abuja is the Executive Director of the Abuja School of Social and Political Thought, Dr. Sam Amadi. And in the studio here we have a lawyer and policy analyst, Okigwe Local. You're welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much. So first I'm going to be starting, let's start by asking if the FCT administration legally empowered, is it, or are they legally empowered to seal or repossess private property? Let me start with you here in the studio with us.
Well, I believe that they're not legally empowered. Now, the reason why I'm saying that is because before you can seal up a property, you need to get an order of court. Now, to get an order of court, right, it means that you need to approach the court, file proper processes before the court, and get the order of court to seal up the property. Now, what the FCTA wants to do at this time is to arbitrarily go to those places, those properties, and seal up those properties. Yes, we know that they're probably owing their ground rents, they're owing ground rent, and things are happening, but it still does not give the power to the FCTA to go there to go and seal up arbitrarily, and that is why we have arms of government. Now, you cannot be a judge in your own case. You cannot decide that a person is owing you at the same time you want to go and take an action to execute an action. Now, where is the place of fair hearing in this? So, legally speaking, they do not have that right to go in and seal up properties arbitrarily.
So the FCTA cannot be its own arbiter in this case.
At all.
Well, let's come to Mr. Sam Amadi. Mr. Sam, I'm hoping that you're there. If you could give us an idea of the international laws that's guiding embassies in other countries and what is privy to them regarding this situation here with the FCTA.
Well, first, I think first Nigeria is a signatory to the Vienna Convention that promotes and protects diplomatic privileges. Again, if you look at section 23 and 24 of the Vienna Convention, 23 particularly exempts embassies, premises, of diplomatic premises from taxes and rents. So it's clearly whether Nigeria may have the opportunity to, the sovereign rights to levy all kinds of taxes on premises and properties but there's some limitations to how they can ascend to embassies and diplomatic property. Again, in international law, these premises are equivalent of foreign countries. So entrance into those premises are also restricted. So even though you have maybe a Zambia High Commission across the road, you can't just enter into that property, because even though it's in Nigeria, it's actually a Zambian government, Zambian territory. It has a sovereign protection as well as diplomatic immunity. Even baggages of diplomats in transit, documents, archives, Section 34, Article 24 of the Vienna Convention exempt them from state scrutiny. So the Mr. President, under the constitutional law, talk about the sole organ. The president under Section 5 of the Constitution is both the chief executive, the commander-in-chief, and is a sole organ. As a sole organ, he is responsible for transactions with foreign countries. And when we sign to these conventions and ratify them, we are bound by them. And again, the Nigerian Supreme Court has held before Ibrahim Abuja that these international laws that are ratified under Section 12 of our Constitution, where these laws can become ratified and incorporated in Nigerian law, or basically ratified, they become laws that even the Nigerian courts will protect and promote and enforce. So apart from political rhetoric, the FCT minister first will be breaching diplomatic protocol and privileges to even enter without consent premises of foreign countries in Nigeria, because those premises have diplomatic immunity. Secondly, it can't even attach those buildings in purported execution of rents and ground rent, because by Section 23, they ought to be exempted. And again, it's exercising power related to him by the president under Chapter 5 of the Section 5 of the Constitution. And so we can't do anything that the president under international law should not do. So yes, there may be diplomatic channels to make sure that these embassies pay what they ought to pay. But even if they are in default, I used to be an advisor to Foreign Affairs Minister, and I do know that Nigerian missions sometimes are in serious default. We had issue with the French government over the Nigerian diplomatic house in France, in Paris. So sometimes we be the only people who are going. So this, virtue signal, this heroism, as if Nigeria does not owe rent. I mean, look at it, 1 million, 3 million. I think it's unnecessary controversy. I think perhaps the minister is bluffing. Okay. Basically can't do this.
Now, Mr. Mahdi, noting that these lands definitely belong to these countries since their embassies are here in Nigeria, the question now is, what recourse does the FCTA have, noting that they do have to follow due process?
I think first that I don't even think it's arguable whether they should pay ground rent to anybody. But let's get the point clear. Even if they are default, I mean, you write to them, you have to, like my colleague, the lawyer said, you probably have to go to due process. But I'm saying the due process, you go to court, perhaps court authorize you to seal premises. Even if as a private person, you cannot basically come and seal. Of course, if they have a rent tribunal can issue. There are administrative tribunals that under the FCT law, you could set up tribunals that could issue those orders, and those orders become executable by the authority. But absent of that, it shouldn't be the minister says, you know what, we're going to seal this place. No, there should be some sense in which there is administrative adjudication, which is a process not like court, but a process that allows some kind of interdiction. Just like, for example, when you are caught in a traffic offense, when the traffic road safety official confronts you and bills you, he has conducted some kind of judicial hearing. So there's a due process. But the bigger question here is, you just can't, you will be violating international protocol, international privilege, and in violating the diplomatic immunity conferred based on international law, which Nigeria is a secret. Right. So okay. It's needless and
Mr. Sam Mahdi, my apologies. I have to come to Okiki here in the studio because we have very little time. Okiki, we all know the antecedent of our FCT minister, Mr. Nyesom Wike. Should he choose to breach the protocol that has been stipulated in the Nigerian constitution regarding foreign embassies and diplomatic houses, What could happen to the relationship between Nigeria and these countries?
Well, there'll be serious international crisis in the sense that Nigeria will be put in a position where these countries will then look at Nigeria as a lawless country. And I'm saying this because if we have, an agreement, we sign an agreement, we both agree that particularly regarding these countries, when they are concerned about, probably coming into the embassy or whatever space they occupy, they are supposed to be immune against a lot of things. And, if we breach that particular agreement, it means that it shows how lawless, a country is, if that will be done. So right now, I believe that the minister should probably be advised. There's the Attorney General of the Federation, the Minister of Foreign Affairs, at this point, should be talking to him. That this step you've decided to take shouldn't be. As a matter of fact, if you take this step, it will affect a lot of other things. You don't want to hear or you don't want to know that the other countries probably decided to, stop Nigerians from coming to the country based on a single step that will be taken by a particular person. So I believe that at this point in time, this, should be addressed. Just the president should look into this, just the way he looked into some, properties that he had, told them to stop execution on. Look into this also, and put a stop quickly before certain steps are taken, and this can affect the country in that sense.
Would you have any advice that any further steps that maybe the FCTA could take, or maybe even these embassies when it comes to this situation here?
Well, it should be legal. Like Mr. Sam said, for the embassies, they are immune against a lot of things. In fact, their cars, that is why you see, when you see their cars even moving, they have on it diplomats. And that means that you cannot do anything to them at that time. You can't even, a police can't even stop and say, well, let me search you.
They're subject to a different kind of rules.
Yes.
In this country, while they're in this.
While they're in the country. So it means even at the time, if a criminal scales a fence into the embassy, the person is immune already. You cannot go in there to say, I'm going to pick you out. I'm going to take you out of the place. So what our advice is that for the government, follow due process. If there's for the private persons, for the embassies, I believe that all these, there are laws against, even charging the embassies for these kind of things. So basically, let the government take proper steps regarding the private individuals, and for the embassies, let them exempt them from this, since there's a law that guides this.
All right, Mr. Sam Amadi, let me come to you for your final remark here regarding this. Do you think that there might be other interests regarding the situation from the FCT minister, or is it just a case of him not knowing or understanding the laws that guide these embassies or mission houses?
I think it's a bit of ignorance and perhaps hubris. See, he wants to be a performing minister, and the concept of performance is this ability to ride roughshod, ability to look tough. So he said, look, I'm going to step on toes, and big toes, he said so. I said, I would like to hunt big men. So there's no bigger toe than foreign countries. So if you're accusing the minister of saying, look, this minister is going after some people, going after PDP, you say, okay, you know what, I'm going after the High Commissioner. So you cannot say, oh, wow, this is a tough guy. So I think it's a confusion around what it means to be courageous, what it means to be a leader. Everyone wants to ramp up in approved achievement. Mr. Wike is going around knocking down houses, going around, stealing places where there is government. He's a tough guy. I think that's really what it is. And some bit of lack of knowledge about, procedure. And that's the danger of having around yourself persons who probably don't know or wouldn't bother to say, Minister, you just can't do this. I mean, yes, we would like to get all the defaulters and get paid, but the Minister of Foreign Affairs, if there are embassies that owe you, the Minister of Foreign Affairs is the one who should write to them. There are diplomatic channels, even if I doubt if there's need for them to pay those ground rents. But even if there is, it is the Minister of Foreign Affairs who, through diplomatic language, who through some sense of, decorum and channels, will call this person, hey guys, you got to pay, this is what you're owing. They will write back to Nigeria. By the way, we have countries that are supplying electricity, our neighbors who have strategic value that they bring to the table, and even when we don't have people say, why are we sending 150 megawatts to Togo, to Benin Republic, to these places? And say, look, it's diplomatic relationship. There are some treaty obligations. There are some, economic, exchanges that they help us. They don't do their dams so that water doesn't overflow like Niger. I was okay, you know what? We support them with this. So you can't just sit as a minister of FCT and think that you can just, pull for your brain something that's okay. No, the president is the one who will challenge to the Minister of Foreign Affairs, who knows the process, and they have discussion with their foreign ambassadors, and then they come to some understanding. I mean, it's reckless. He doesn't speak well of government. The Minister of FCT to say, I'm going to seal embassy. So the ambassadors will be just saying, perhaps it's a bullish government that does not proceed.
Mr. Sam Mahdi, I want to say thank you very much for joining us this evening. Also in the studio here with us, Kiki Adinira, thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
Let's go on a very short break. When we come back, we've got more inside the 6 o'clock news. Stay with us. And you're welcome back. Now, President Bola Tinubu on Tuesday inaugurated the newly renovated International Conference Center in the nation's capital, Abuja, as part of a 17-day marathon inauguration of projects. The projects are executed by FCT Minister Nyesom Wike as part of his ministry's efforts to mark the second anniversary of President Bola Tinubu's first four-year term. The inauguration will run between Tuesday, June 10 and Thursday, 3rd July. Meanwhile, the Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Nyesom Wike, has officially renamed the Abuja International Conference Center in honor of President Bola Tinubu, to be known as the Bola Ahmed Tinubu International Conference Center.
I'm greatly honored and happy to be here to reopen this International Conference Center as part of our determined effort to change the way we do things, to reflect us as people of quality, people of character, people of determination, people of great spirit. That's what we are, and I'm glad in this week you are reflecting that. Don't pay attention to the busybody and the bystanders. Whatever they say, continue with your good work. You are a transformational leader. You have the foresight, the vision, and determination to succeed. Thank you very, very much. Whatever might be wrong today is a sign of a good thing that we are correcting and we are reflecting, renewing our hope and believing in ourselves and what we can do, what Nigeria can be, the great nation.
Now, education experts in Nigeria are urging swift action to integrate artificial intelligence into the basic and secondary school curriculum, warning that the country risks falling behind global standards. While some see the move as a step in the right direction, others argue that Nigeria may not yet be ready for such a shift. News Central's Omolola Ololade has more in this report.
Artificial intelligence, or AI, is rapidly transforming how people teach and learn, and that is fueling calls from educationists for its quick adoption in Nigeria's basic and secondary schools. For many students, AI is already a part of their academic journey, offering support that enhances their learning experience.
When I'm doing work, I'll just copy it and paste then to AI. Then I'll tell you that, okay, how can I improve in this essay and stuff? So AI will just help me to say, okay, this way you should do better. The punctuation you see here is wrong, the grammatical. That's what AI will just do for me.
AI just makes learning fun. There are some apps that actually convert your questions, your notes into quizzes. and that will help you learn it more. You assimilate everything properly and better and faster.
While AI is proven to be a useful tool, some students believe integrating it into the school curriculum is still premature for Nigeria, citing infrastructural and policy limitations.
In Nigerian secondary schools, students have to juggle between 12 to 15 subjects daily on a timetable, resulting to heavy workload. The National Education Policy emphasizes that our focus should be on the core foundational skills in literacy, numeracy, and critical thinking, which are essential for the holistic development of students.
Teachers also share similar concerns, highlighting plagiarism as a growing challenge.
We encounter lots and lots of plagiarism in their work, and most of their jobs or assignments they turn in are usually very similar. Most of articles they submit to the school are usually similar, the same format and all other things like that.
It's giving us challenges, because when you see the essay written by a student you know in your class as take home, and the one the child writes in school, these are two different contents, and you begin to wonder how.
Educationists argue that introducing AI into the classroom must go hand in hand with a complete overhaul of the school curriculum to meet the demands of 21st century learning.
Artificial intelligence should be, and the apparatus, what we are learning, curriculum we are learning now is retrogressive. Completely, it has no bearing to the new world order. So it means that there are some courses in the next few years will no longer be relevant to the new world order.
There is no doubt AI could be a game changer for Nigeria's education system, but both students and educators agree the government must invest significantly to bridge infrastructure gaps and tackle ethical concerns before AI can be fully integrated into schools. In Lagos for News Central, Omolola Ololade.
Residents of Jos in Plateau State have raised concerns over the soaring prices of commodities, calling for measures to ameliorate their living conditions. News Central's Chizoba Nyonwe filed in this report after visiting the Jos Terminus and Yanshanu markets. See here.
Commodities appear to be fluctuating in Nigeria, further compounding the harsh economic situation in the country. While a bag of gari has skyrocketed to 86,000 naira, other staple food come a bit affordable.
Something like gari is a little bit cheaper, but now they increase 20 something thousand on top in one bag of gari. But beans is like beans reduced, or the price of beans is okay, 1,500. The iron beans. But if you want something like moi beans, 1,400.
The price of some things are still on the high side, but few things, like I said, just like oil, spaghetti, and rice, they are the only three things that have reduced price.
As many people struggle to put food on their table, others ask for the establishment of a viable price regulatory agency.
Maybe we are the problem, because some people, the prices are less in some shops and in other shops is high. So I don't know if there's something they can do to make these prices uniform.
The farmer they suffer. If I can get it, I'm even thinking of my neighbor aside me. If I'm eating, maybe some they're not even eating. That's just it.
The cost wasn't different at the Yanshanu market in the Nasarawa area of Jos, the hub of livestock trade.
Around I priced same size I bought last year, 150,000. Didn't tell me that 350, 400 now. I'm here to buy. So government should now have to come in to see how it can alleviate this kind of suffering.
The situation is very poor here in Nigeria. We are not happy with what is happening now in our country. We want our government to help us and make everything to be easy for the poor people.
With the situation of things in the country, noting the harsh economy of which people have been complaining about, and of course the number of rams you're seeing right here behind me, the question is how many people have the means to buy these rams? That's the question that is begging for answer. In Jos, Plateau State, for News Central, Chizoba Anyori.
Now, coming up, protesters in Nairobi storm mortuary demanding autopsy for 31-year-old Albert Anjwang, who died in police custody. We'll tell you more after the break. Stay with us. Welcome back. Now in East Africa, Kashmuel Makore, a leading voice in Kenya's Ruto Must Go protest, has made a dramatic political U-turn, aligning himself with veteran opposition figure Raila Odinga. Odinga, who recently struck a surprising alliance with the government, has brought several former critics into his circle, including Makore. The move has sparked mixed reactions. Many of Makore's former protest allies view the decision as a betrayal of the movement's ideals, accusing him of abandoning the grassroots struggles for political convenience.
I thought that the majority of the people who were calling themselves leaders therein were agitating for the sake of agitating. ODM was not contradictory for me as much, because at the time I had to make a decision, because I had transitioned into a political figure. I had to choose a vehicle that would have the least contradictions for me.
Still in Kenya, tensions are rising in Nairobi after protesters stormed the mortuary demanding an autopsy for 31-year-old Albert Anjwang, who died while in police custody. Now, Anjwang was found unconscious in a cell at the Nairobi Central Police Station on 7th June. These are currently live pictures from Nairobi right now with the protesters at the mortuary. And hundreds of people, mainly Tunisians, launched a land convoy bound for Gaza, seeking to break the siege on the Palestinian territory. Organizers said the 9-bus convoy was not bringing aid into Gaza, but rather aimed to carry out a symbolic act by breaking the blockade on the territory described by the United Nations as the hungriest place on earth. The Samud convoy, meaning steadfastness in Arabic, includes doctors and aims to arrive in Rafah in southern Gaza by the end of this week. Still ahead, 10 dead, 12 wounded in school shooting in Austria. Details of this after the break. Stay with us. Welcome again. Now, U.S. President Donald Trump has ordered the deployment of about 700 Marines and 2,000 additional National Guards members as protests intensify in Los Angeles. Police ordered the public to disperse from downtown Los Angeles after further unrest, with cars torched and security forces firing tear gas at protesters in the wake of Donald Trump's deployment of National Guard troops to America's second biggest city. Protests in Los Angeles, home to a large Latino population, broke out on Friday, triggered by immigration raids that resulted in dozens of arrests of what authorities say are illegal immigrants and gang members. Meanwhile, Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass says the city is being used as an experiment to test the limit of federal power.
Stop the raids, period. I would say give the power back to our governor. And if we need the National Guard, we can do it in the normal circumstances, which is the request is made local and the governor decides or not to grant that to our city.
And have you been in contact with the administration?
We didn't need the National Guard. Why on earth? What are they going to do? Do you know what the National Guard is doing now? They are guarding 2 buildings. They're guarding the federal building here, in downtown, and they're guarding the federal building in Westwood. That's what they're doing. So they need Marines on top of it? I don't understand that. That's why I feel like we are part of an experiment that we did not ask to be a part of. We need to stop the raids. This should not be happening in our city. It is not warranted, and the only thing it does is contribute to chaos. This was chaos that was started at Washington, D.C. On Thursday, the city was peaceful. On Friday, it was not, because of the intervention of the federal government. And
we're also aware of reports that the president intends or has deployed U.S. Marines to Los Angeles. The introduction of federal military personnel without direct coordination creates logistical challenges and risks confusion during critical incidents. Los Angeles Police Department, alongside our mutual aid partners, have decades of experience managing large-scale public demonstrations, and we remain confident in our ability to be able to do so professionally and
Russia launched a large-scale drone attack on Ukraine early on Tuesday, targeting Kiev and the southern port city of Odessa. Ukrainian officials reported that a 59-year-old man was killed in Odessa, where residential buildings were struck and at least 4 others are injured. A maternity hospital was also damaged in the assault, intensifying concerns over civilian safety. The attacks come amid ongoing hostilities, with Ukraine continuing to strike targets within Russian territory. Weekend peace talks failed to produce meaningful progress toward ending the 3-year conflict, aside from a limited prisoner exchange agreement. Russia has dismissed calls for an unconditional ceasefire, while Ukrainian officials are urging stronger international sanctions and increased military support to counter the sustained aggression. And a devastating school shooting occurred on Tuesday at Borg Secondary School in Graz after a suspect identified as Arthur A. opened fire in 2 classrooms before taking his own life in a school bathroom. The incidents resulted in 10 fatalities, including the 21-year-old gunman, and 12 injuries. The suspect, armed with a legally owned Glock pistol and a shotgun, was a former student of the school who had not graduated. The authorities confirmed that a suicide note was found at his residence, though its contents have not been disclosed. The victims included 7 students and at least 1 teacher. Some of the injured remain in critical condition. And world leaders have converged on the French city of Nice for a 5-day conference on the state of the world's oceans. The meeting comes at a time America and its traditional allies are unable to see eye to eye on the one urgent message: the health of our oceans is at breaking point. From plastic pollution to destructive fishing practices, experts say it's time for bold action, not just words. For News Central, international correspondent Afia Hagen here has the story.
A major summit on the world's oceans kicked off today in Nice, France, with leaders and activists calling for urgent action to protect marine ecosystems. The UN Ocean Conference comes amid warnings that time is running out to save our seas. With 60 heads of state and thousands of experts and activists gathering, the message is clear: the oceans are in crisis and nations need to move from words to action. One of the biggest flashpoints, bottom trawling. The UK announced plans to partially ban the destructive fishing practice in half of its marine protected areas. Greenpeace called it long overdue, whilst other nations signalled similar moves. France pledged to restrict bottom trawling in some areas, though environmentalists say it's not enough. Other countries are expected to unveil new marine parks and protected zones. Samoa just announced 30% of its national waters will be protected, a big step towards the global 30% target by 2030. Beyond fishing, the summit is grappling with marine plastic pollution and deep-sea mining. The US has so far resisted calls for international regulation on deep-sea mining. Small island states are demanding more funding to combat rising seas and plundered fish stocks. They warned that ocean protection remains the least funded of all UN Sustainable Development Goals. The conference is unlikely to produce a binding treaty, but experts say it could mark a turning point if leaders step up. With the health of our oceans hanging in the balance, world leaders face a crucial test. Can they back up their promises with action? For News Central, I'm Mafia Hagan.
We're going to a short break now, and when we come back, we've got sports. Welcome back. The city of Lagos is set to make history when it hosts the African Fencing Championship from June 25th to the 29th. This marks a milestone for Nigerian sports as the nation becomes only the third sub-Saharan African nation to host this prestigious event, following Senegal and Mali. The competition will take place at Charterhouse, Lagos, and will feature over 200 athletes from 26 African countries. World-class talents will compete, including current senior world #1 and Olympic bronze medalist Mohamed Al Sayed from Egypt, plus Olympic silver medalist Fayez Farjani from Tunisia. Nigeria's own Inko Sibru, ranked 23rd globally, leads the home team's medal hopes. President of the Nigerian Fencing Federation, Adeyinka Samo, has described the national team as battle-ready after international coaching support and intensive training camps. Japan and South Korea wrapped up their World Cup qualifying campaigns in dominant fashion. Japan crushed Indonesia 6-0 in Osaka, with Crystal Palace Daichi Kamada scoring twice in the first half. The victory secured Japan's spot as Group C winners. Meanwhile, South Korea beats Kuwait 4-0 in Seoul, with PSG's Lee Kan-ing among the goal scorers. Tottenham's Son Heung-min made a late appearance as a substitute. Japan coach Hajime Moriyasu has set the ambitious goal of winning next year's World Cup in the United States, Canada, and Mexico. Borussia Dortmund has signed English midfielder Jude Bellingham from Sunderland on a 5-year contract through 2030. The 19-year-old becomes the second Bellingham brother to join Dortmund, following Jude, who played there from 2020 to 2023. Dortmund reportedly paid around €33 million for the England under-21 international, making this their highest upfront transfer fee ever. The brothers could potentially face each other at the Club World Cup if Dortmund meets Real Madrid, where Jude currently plays. Jobe will wear his first name on his jersey to distinguish himself from his brother's legacy. Dortmund begins their Club World Cup campaign against Fluminense on June 17th. And Juventus has confirmed Igor Tudor will remain as head coach for next season. General manager Damien Camolli made the announcement on Tuesday, ending speculation about the club's coaching future. Juventus has pursued club legend Antonio Conte, who led the team to 3 straight league titles from 2011 to 2024, or rather 2014. However, Conte chose to stay at Napoli to defend their championship. Tudor took over in March after Thiago Motta was dismissed. He successfully guided Juventus to Champions League qualification. The coach will lead Juve at the upcoming World Cup in the USA, where they'll face Al Ain, Wydad AC, and Manchester City in group play. And that's all the news this hour. But before we go, let's take another look at some of the major stories. 2 truck drivers have been gunned down, with vehicles set ablaze in Okigwe, Imo State. And we told you police in Kaduna have arrested 27 suspects in connection with the murder of senior naval officer. We also told you that about 700 Marines and 2,000 additional National Guard members have been mobilized as protests break out across the U.S. Now, to remember, you can send your eyewitness reports to the WhatsApp number displayed on your screens now. And do follow us on social media. We are at News Central TV. You can watch News Central live on DSTV channel 422, GoTV channel 23, Star Times 274, Able TV, and of course on YouTube. Many thanks for watching. My name is Mazino Appeal.